Today's video is about multiplying and dividing decimals. Let's start with the multiplying rules. Step 1 is to count the number of decimal places in both factors. And step 2 is, after you've multiplied, is to bring the number of decimal places back into your product. Let's model what this looks like. In example 1, we have 4 2/10 times 3. So in the first factor, we have 1 decimal place. In the second factor, we have 0 decimal places. So if we were to draw a squiggly line, we would say the first number has 1 decimal place, the second has 0 decimal places. We add the 2 together. That's not right. And there's going to be 1 decimal place in the answer. Then we do our actual multiplication. 2 times 3, 4 times 3. We bring our decimal place back into our answer. And that's the answer. Let's do another example. Our next example is 0.43 times 1.2. We start with drawing our squiggly line, and we say the top factor has 2 decimal places, the bottom factor has 1. We combine those. Our answer will have 3 decimal places. So now we multiply. Once we're finished multiplying, we bring our decimal place back in 3 times because that's how many we added. The next example is 16.1 times 3.2. Do this one on your own and bring it to class tomorrow answered. Now let's take some notes on the dividing rules. Before we write down the rules, it's important to know the vocabulary of regular division problems. The number inside the house is the dividend, and it's divided by the divisor. And your answer is a quotient. Let's get some definitions by looking at some examples. So the first thing we look at is the dividend. We notice that's the only place that has a decimal in this example. If the divisor does not have a decimal, then the decimal moves straight up and stays in the quotient. And then you carry on with your regular division. 2 goes into 16, 2 goes into 2, and that's your answer, 8.1. In example 2, we always start with the dividend. This one has a decimal as well as the divisor. Now if the divisor has a decimal, then we have to move it before we can start dividing. So we always start by looking at the divisor and how many decimal places it has. In this case, it has 1 decimal place. So if we move 1 decimal place on the outside, we move 1 decimal place on the inside, and that's the new place of the decimal. We can rewrite the problem so there's less confusion. The new problem is 162 divided by 2. Now there's no decimal, so we carry on with regular division. And that's our answer. Let's do 2 more examples. In example 1, we look at the dividend and we notice it has decimals. We notice the divisor also has decimals. Again, if the divisor has decimals, we move them. So it has 1 decimal place. If it has 1, that's all we can move for the inside as well. In this problem, we still have a decimal, so when we rewrite it, it's now 40.6. We got rid of the decimal outside. Now the dividend still has a decimal, but it goes straight up. Then we carry on with our division. And our answer is 20.3. In this last example, we started the dividend and notice it does not have a decimal, but the divisor does, so we do have to move it out. We move it 3 times because there's 3 decimal places. And again, what we always do to the outside, we have to do to the inside. So we have to add a decimal at the very end and carry it 3 spaces, just as we did outside. And those empty spots, we add zeros. Let's rewrite the problem so it's less confusing. So our new problem is 28,000 divided by 4, and we do simple division. So our answer is 7,000.